What's good, bro? Look, you don't need a break from reality. And I know you think you do, but you just need to make your reality better. The truth is that the reason you feel like you need a break from reality is because you've made your entire existence shitty. You've made your existence not what you want it to be. And how did that happen? Well, you settle for instant pleasure, which leads to future disappointment. You have it all backwards. Instead of delaying your gratification right now so that you can reap the rewards later, you don't understand sowing and reaping. You don't understand the seeds that you're sowing. Taking a break to smoke, to drink, literally the equivalent of putting a bandage on a gunshot wound. You've messed up. So how did I get here, bro? Like, what made me realize this? So let me set the scene. About 3 years ago, I'm 24 now, I was 21, and I hadn't been to college in about 2.5 years. The reason I left college was because I had what I called at the time a clinical depression, and I couldn't complete college. The reality is that my habits were so bad that depression was what I deserved. Back then, I couldn't say that statement, but it's the truth. So I was supposed to go back to college after I left. I took a medical leave, which means that you have anywhere from 1 semester to 4 semesters to get yourself healthy and get back. Otherwise, they end your acceptance to the school, however that works. So here I am, and I'm not getting any better. In fact, I'm getting worse. Maybe you can relate to this. I decided to befriend somebody, and it wasn't the best decision. So maybe I used to pick up weed from him. I don't know exactly how we became connected again, but all of a sudden I started hanging out with this guy named Marquise. And you might have somebody like this in your life too. But this guy, to me, he was my plug. He gave me drugs. He was my music producer, as in he produced the beats that I would try to rap on when I was still on that grind. And on top of that, he was my thief, he was my friend, my accountant, the person that I talked to the most. So I had this interesting dynamic where there was some positive, but it was mostly net negative. Because if somebody's taking from you, let's say they take $10 from you and then they give you $1, you think, oh wow, what a good person. Not realizing that you lost $10. So whenever I needed something, like if it was a drug like Xanax or weed or Percocets, whatever it was, this guy could get it. He knew the right people. Or I guess it's the wrong people, but to him it was the right people. And the reason why he latched onto me was because I had a car and I was impressionable. That's the mold, right? So he latched onto me because I could drive him around places he wasn't driving at the time. And I basically just did whatever he wanted. But bro, the reality is I was living in La La Land. I was not living in reality. I was dodging reality as much as I could. Putting bandages here, bandages here. I was on antidepressants, antipsychotics, I was on lithium. Probably had 4 different medications at the same time. On top of that, here I am, and I'm taking Xanax while I'm drinking, while I'm smoking. And it's just this concoction in my mind. My mind can't even think straight. It's just busy processing all of these drugs that are going to my head. Let me tell you, it was the closest thing to suicide while being alive. You might be able to relate to that. Because it was a time when I was very suicidal, But then it just didn't seem realistic. So I was like, okay, well, what if I incapacitate myself? That's close. So, anyways, here I am floating in and out of consciousness, and my reality only got better after I got an OUI, which means you're basically driving while you're under the influence. The cops catch you. I'll tell this story some other time. But yeah, the cops caught me. They're like, yo, what are you doing? And I got with an OUI. Can't drive anymore. Lost my license. And here I am thinking, holy fuck, how am I supposed to get to work? Not realizing that my life needs work. I don't even need to go to work. I thought I did. But that's the thing about life. Life usually gets worse before it gets better. So if you're going through suffering, if something's happening and it's not easy, it's hard, those are the moments you should be thankful for, should be grateful. Because now when I look back on my depression and how terrible it was, how awful I felt every single day, I'd wake up and the cycle would repeat itself, I realize that what I have now is bliss compared to that. So with my probation from my OUI, I wasn't taking it seriously, and I was still drinking, still smoking. My habits, they got better slightly. I was maybe not as out of control because I couldn't drive places. So I couldn't get as crazy as I was before, but every once in a while, still drink. Every once in a while, still smoke. Every once in a while, Xanax. Okay. Actually, Xanax I pretty much stopped. But then, eventually, my PO gave me an ultimatum because they found alcohol in one of my drug tests. I used to have to go to drug tests anywhere from like once to 3 times in a week, piss in a cup. And they found alcohol, and he's like, look, this is unacceptable. And I'm like, I know. And he said, we'll give you one last chance. If you fuck this up, you're going to jail. So they gave me this device that I would use. Basically, it's a breathalyzer, and it's connected to service. So I have to blow in it 3 times a day. This is how I first had structure in my life again, because I had to be up by 8 a.m. to blow in this thing. And then at 12, I had to blow in it again. And then at 8, I had to blow in it again. Couldn't miss it. If I missed one of those, guess what would happen? The cops would come. And guess what? They also had a little camera too, so they were making sure that it was me. So I couldn't have my brother blow into it, because they would figure out it was him. So this thing was like, it was a foolproof system. I couldn't get out of it. So here I was, my consequence was jail if I fuck this up. What's yours? You probably don't have one. You see, Tony Robbins says that change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. If I stayed the same in that moment, I was going to jail. I was drinking 4 or 5 times a week at least. So I was like, yo, I cannot do this anymore. I can't. And that's when I actually made a change. But for most people, they won't be able to make a change like day and night like this. The reason why is because the consequences aren't severe enough. What's your consequence if you don't stop jacking off, bro? What's your consequence if you don't stop smoking weed, or if you don't stop taking edibles, or if you don't stop taking shrooms, or if you don't stop drinking? What's your consequence? Mine was jail. That's real. So what can you do if your life is shitty, or at least as shitty as mine was? Because I've spared you most of the details. You don't know the depths of how badly it was, but I'm sure you can relate. So I was able to stop drinking in one day because my PO told me I was going to go to jail. But you probably don't have somebody telling you, like, look, you're going to prison if you don't stop doing what you're doing. So without that level of pressure, drastic change is going to be difficult, right? Because your desire to change won't be as high. The way to increase your desire to change is to think about what you want and channel that energy. When I was your age, bro, I wanted to fuck. I still do. And I remember I used that as motivation for me to get in the gym. So, you can use it too. Most people won't do this. But if you channel your energy, it's literally the nature of sexual transmutation, is you channel the energy that you have to go fuck and use it to do something positive for yourself. So that's what I did when I started going to the gym. I was like, well, if I start going to the gym, this will lead to me having sex. Most people won't say that. Most people won't do that. But if you can relate what you're doing now to some future event that is positive, like if I do this, I will make $1 million or I will make more money. Here's the thing, those are cool, but there's very few things that motivate people, especially men, like sex does. Why not just use that? It's the great motivator. That's the equivalent to some people as saying you're going to jail tomorrow. You can use that to motivate you to do something. So here's what you do. Make a plan to do your habits, the bad ones, less over time. Because you have to be forgiving with yourself, right? Let's say your life was going to end tomorrow. You would do everything you could that was right and just so that you could end dying knowing that you did it peacefully and lived with virtue. Okay, well, your life's not ending tomorrow, or maybe it is, you don't know. But let's say that instead of doing that, we're gonna just focus on doing them less over time. So what you can do is, if you're doing a bad habit, let's say you're jacking off 3 times a day. I feel for you, bro. Been there. Let's say you're doing it 3 times a day right now. Your goal should be, okay, what if I can do it 2 times a day next week, or 1 time a day, some of those days? You'd be in a better place than you are now. That's the thing about some of these bad habits. They're so ingrained in our head. Think about the amount of time you've been doing it for. You can cut that down maybe in half. Like if you've been doing a bad habit for 10 years, your brain is linked to that habit. You need to be gracious with yourself. Yes, you should have the intention that you're going to stop. But no, don't pity yourself. Don't look at yourself like you're a victim. Do what you can. All you have to do is make your life better by taking out these bad habits and replacing them with better ones over time. You can do it in a span of 3 months. Your life can totally change, but you have to be patient and persistent. So for me and for you, what your plan is look at your life right now. Is it where you want it to be? Okay, it's not. What are you gonna do about it? What are you gonna do? You can keep watching videos like this one, or you can take action. Get out a piece of paper and write down what you're actually gonna do. Write down 10 things. Write down 20 things. Sit down and write on a piece of paper, how can I make my life better? Write down 20 things. It's called mindstorming. I'm gonna do it right now. So, in order to make your life better, you have to go through pain and difficulty. Challenges will always be there. But the light is within you. So don't be like Nero and just be more like Aurelius. Everything will work out, brother. Peace.